people love working with people, right? Like at the end of the day, right? No one wants to work with someone who's too corporate, too robotic,
Yeah.
right? I think if you maintain a really corporate atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
but you have a solid vibe, solid
Mm-hmm.
personality, unique, right, in your own way, that's the
Mm-hmm.
exact person that someone wants to work with.
I have a short intro for you. Do you want me to go?
Yeah, of course.
So, in this episode, we have a serial entrepreneur from Canada, Avi Grondin from the marketing world, TEDx speaker, featured in multiple top tier magazines, built multiple businesses at a very young age, and he's here to share with us all the strategies, all his learnings, and I'm going to try and extract all the information I can in this 1 hour. So, Avi, thanks for coming on to this show. Thanks for your time. You've been incredibly kind. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. It's exciting. It's a solid podcast, and yeah, definitely excited to talk to you today, man.
Yeah. Avi, before I begin, for the few people who don't know about you, can you tell us about your story, what you have done, how you have built all these businesses, some background about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I when I was young, I was in a position where, I wasn't necessarily raised in a, wealthy family. We were, struggling growing up. So, I saw my mom work like three jobs, right? So, and she was a single mom, and so I realized at a young age that I needed to work hard, very hard, in order to give back to my mom and build a life that I thought was valuable. So, starting at like the age of 12, I was like buying phones, iPhones, Samsungs, Canada Goose jackets, Macaj jackets, things like that, and I would buy them low on Marketplace and Kijiji, and then I would sell them high, or for like $100 more, $200 more, and would make little profits, and then would give my mom that money. So that's how I started, sort of in entrepreneurship. I also, when I was in grade six, I was, people used to have PSPs, right?
Yeah,
PlayStation
yeah,
Portables.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I used to take people's memory cards, bring them home, load a bunch of games on them, and then sell it to them for like $100, preloaded with like 10 gigabytes worth of games and stuff like that. So that was in grade six, and then yeah, and then my mom, she put her last dollar to put me through private school in high school. So I was surrounded by a lot of families that were very wealthy, and I saw what it was like to when you first get your driver's license to drive BMW, Mercedes, and all these things, and I realized I was like, you know what, like I can do this myself, so I worked really hard in high school, got a really good marks, and then decided to applied to some of the best business schools in Canada. Ended up getting accepted everywhere where I applied, and then went to Schulich at York University, which is regarded as one of the top business schools. And then about a year into that, I got my first internship. I worked at Quest Trade for 4 months, and I was doing some stock brokerage work, and then went back to school for another year, and then ended up applying again for the summertime, second year summertime, to see if I can get another internship. I got an offer at a hedge fund. I accepted it, and then ended up getting another, and that was a 4 month internship. And then I got another offer at IBM, except this time it was a 16-month internship. So I was like, which one do I want to do? I want to do something lengthier, just so I can see what finance was really like, if I really liked it. So I declined the hedge fund offer in the end, and then I ended up going to IBM. And about 7 months into my degree, sorry, 7 months into my internship at IBM, I was learning a lot. I really like loved it for the first 7 months, and then 7 months in, I stopped learning like entirely. There was nothing I was learning. My work became robotic. So I was doing the same things all the time, and I asked my manager, "Hey, can you help me with more work?" And he gave me the same stuff over and over again. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to quit. So I quit, and I started my first business at the time because I still had that gap to go back to
Mm-hmm.
school. So I ended up, I didn't want to waste my time, so I started a business, and I started a valet parking service
Yeah, yeah.
business, and it was called Benici Valet. It was a great business. It was service business in person. We worked with some great companies, where we would station valet drivers outside of their business location. And then those valet drivers would park the cars for all the guests. It was like very chivalrous. They would have the white gloves, the uniform, they open the door, close the door, concierge service, right? And we ended up working with some pretty awesome companies, like Palace Pier, Pantages Hotel. We worked with Cineplex, VIP theaters. We got to a pretty good point with that company. And what I learned about building that company was, marketing is the most important thing in the world, right? So I learned SEO, how to get to the first page of Google. We were sending cold email blasts every day to event planners, wedding planners, corporate event planners, as well as getting to the first page of Google for that business. And so I realized, I'm like, you know what, like, I'm doing valet parking for people. I'm in person. It's a physical business. I can scale it up. However, it only scales to a certain point. And the other thing is, like, I learned a lot about marketing. So a light bulb sort of popped in my head where I was like, okay, I could run this valet business, or I could start a marketing agency and just offer marketing services to people, which is the exact reason why my valet parking service business did well in the end anyways, was because of marketing. So I ended up starting a marketing agency out of, during that year off while running the valet business. The valet business's money is what allowed me to, inject money into the marketing business so I could start that up. And then I had to go back to school in September, right? So I couldn't go back to school, one of the best business schools in Canada, with two businesses full time. Like, it wasn't going to work, right? So I had to get rid of one of them. And I ended up deciding to get rid of the valet business just because it was, cars are, first of all, going to park themselves in 10 years. Second of all, there's lots of liability, right? So if one of these guys crashes a car, we have to pay a lot of insurance and all the stuff. So I was like, you know what, let me just go, to school. I'll work online from my laptop, have Wi-Fi and be able to service my marketing clients. And so that was beginning of third year. I went full time on that while in school. And yeah, essentially fast forward, I sort of finished my degree, opened my office, my marketing agency office right after school in November 2019. And yeah, we've been running ever since. And now we're a team of 32 people. And I've gone on to start other businesses. Like, I've started a cannabis franchise business, where we have cannabis stores. So right now we have about 7 cannabis stores, and we're growing fast. Like, we're getting as many as we can across Canada, trying to break into the US market as well. So it's a very rewarding sort of time frame. And now, my mother, she works for me, so she doesn't have to deal with any, like, bosses that, mistreat her or anything like that. So that's very nice on her end. And yeah, it's been an overall, like, great experience, but we're not done. We have a lot more to go. So it's exciting.
Isn't that the best feeling, that your mom works for you when you know that she has struggled all these years, and now you built all of this, and now you've successfully done what you've always aimed for. A couple of takes on that. So like, you seem like a purebred entrepreneur since you've been grinding since the early days. Do you think those are the moments that allowed you to forget about scaling, understanding the intimate details of business, like how to deal, how to do sales, how to close, how to market yourself, and how to operate once you have actually sold any of your products or services?
Yeah, I agree. I think entrepreneurship's really, I don't think you're born with it. I think it's really just a mindset. It's a mindset shift. Sometimes people need that mindset out of necessity, right? Because in my situation, it was out of necessity, right? Like, I had to do this, right? Because I had to give back to my mom. I had to, stop seeing her struggle, right? So I started working hard, right? And that was out of necessity. So I had to switch my mindset. Whereas, a lot of other people, they don't necessarily have that necessity, but they're still able to switch their mindset, away from, working for other people and, going to the next level, right? So, I have friends that are, born in rich families too, and they've also switched their mindset and become fantastic entrepreneurs. So I think it does start, there's certain points in your life where you sort of have to make the decision. It's a decision you have to make. Am I going to do this? Am I going to take a pay cut, for the first year, whatever, 2 years? to get to something greater. And if you're able to stomach that, if you're able to, do that for yourself, and decide and make that decision and stand by that decision and never quit, and you have that perseverance and grit to be able to continue, and then you'll be fine, man. You'll be able to be a successful entrepreneur. I think the biggest hurdle in entrepreneurship is the first 1 to 2 years where people aren't willing to work additional hours, like 12 to 13 hours a day, not making that much money, but understanding that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like that period of time is a very important period, because once you pass it, then you're in a position now where you're earning double, triple, quadruple what you could have earned at any high paying position, right? So it's I think it's, for me, it was a shift that happened out of necessity, but I think it's possible for anyone to become an entrepreneur. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like you rightly said, entrepreneur is more about mindset. My next question was, when you say that you can shift your mindset and then you could be successful at it, do you have any sort of core pillars? You touched upon two elements, like perseverance. You have to have a hustle, sort of something that breathes inside of you. Do you have any sorts of core pillars such as conviction, a little bit of optimism, patience, any sorts of takes on that?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think there are some core pillars. I would say the first one is communication. So I think the ability to communicate is more important than ever. Like, because, and I'll stop there for a second, because, like, communication is, like, at the end of the day, you need to be able to sell not only to your customers, but also to your employees, if you have investors, you need to sell them on why they should continue to invest in you. If you have employees, you need to sell them on why they should follow you. If you have customers, you need to sell them as why they should buy from you. Constantly you need to be selling, right? So at the end of the day, I think communication is one of the most important entrepreneurial skills. Like, there's other technical entrepreneurs, that start off with like coding skills as their main skill. But in my experience, what I've seen is like, it's best to start with communication skills. So I would say communication is definitely number one. And then number two, I would say, is your motivation. So, you can't, it's going to be impossible to, push past any sort of level of, hardship or obstacles, unless you like have the motivation deep inside you to be able to continue, right? Like, so, for me, that motivation was my mother, my family. I needed to be able to change the game for them, right? So for me, that was like my why, and like that was something that I needed to continue to keep in mind while working those long hours. So I think motivation is what's going to allow you to work the long hours. It's what's going to allow you to continue. There's going to be many times where you want to quit. There's going to be many times where, external situations, force you to quit, right? But you have to continue, right? Because the number one thing is survival. People, a lot of people can be successful entrepreneurs, but like I said, they have to pass that 2-3 year period of like surviving, right? And so I think motivation would be number two. Conviction is definitely one of them too. That conviction to me is, it's like, no matter what happens, you're going to be successful. That's like what I think conviction is. It's like you're so sure of something that you're so convicted that it's going to happen. So it's like that, you need that level of confidence, right? So I would say either conviction or confidence would be number three. Like, and look, it's sometimes hard to find confidence, right? Like, a lot of people, especially these days, we're on Instagram, we see other people's lifestyles, right? It kind of, puts people into depressions and things like that. And so they become less confident.
Yeah.
But, I think if you can just find inner confidence, inner conviction, you're just making a switch in your brain. You're sort of deciding that this is going to be successful one way or another. Then, you'll be able to be successful. And then the last thing is work ethic at the end of the day. Like, you have to be able to grind, like a lot of people, they kind of want to take it easy. Life is for enjoyment, of course, right? So a lot of people, they want to take it easy. They don't want to work that hard. They only work out of necessity, right? So if their boss or someone tells them, or the school tells them, hey, you have this assignment, you have to be a self-starter, right? So you have to be able to be like, okay, like, No one's telling me to work right now, but I'm going to work right now because I have that sort of hustle mentality, that ability to grind. And so you have to be a self starter and you have to have really strong work ethic. So I would say those four things would be the number one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of people, you said it right, like because of all these Instagram hustle porn, I'd like to say, they have created a different culture altogether in terms of all these youngsters. And when you speak about confidence, you're a public speaker. Like I've watched your TEDx talk. Do you think that allowed you to come out of that hole, you can say black hole or whatever that is, just to get more confident, be able to sell more, be able to talk more confidently in terms of what you're selling? And when you did that, how did you overcome all these struggles?
Yeah, so I think public speaking is definitely something that can reaffirm confidence. I mean most of the public speeches that I've done have been targeting students, targeting young entrepreneurs. I've spoken at a couple business conferences where there was an older crowd, but most of the times I speak is usually people that are anywhere between ages of 18 to age like 27. And the reason being is because I resonate more with them. Like at the end of the day, I am that age. Like right now, I am 26 years old. So I mean, for me, like it resonates more with like people that I speak to in that age group to show them what's possible. And I think I agree with you. I think like, the best way to learn is to be the teacher. So, you know, like when you're sort of positioning yourself as a teacher, as a sensei, or as some kind of guiding force for other people, that sort of reaffirms confidence in you, so that you're able to stay level headed and continue down your path. So I would definitely agree. More so, the reason why I do that though is just to help other people, right? Because when I was younger, no one really was telling me what's possible. No young person, who's been doing entrepreneurship, was telling me what's possible. Like I went through school, they sort of teach you to be an employee at school. Like there's a lot of valuable skills in school for sure. Like I learned a lot about accounting, took like 4 or 5 accounting courses, finance courses. There's a lot of skills that are important to, gain from school. But school's overall mentality and mindset is not one that teaches you to sort of, you know, be rebellious and go against the status quo, like which is what entrepreneurship is. um, you know it teaches you how to be more of an employee, like get high paying jobs and things like that, which is fine. And that's why I never had that exposure, going through school and going through my life. So that's why I wanted to give that back to other people, because I know I've had many people that have started businesses just because of my talks. They've DM'd me, they've come up to me after, they've come to my next speeches, and they've told me, hey, like, I started this company because of you, because of your content, because of your speeches, because of what you said online. And it's very rewarding for me. So because it's not all about money, right? Like it's sometimes you have to be able to give back to other people, put people in a position to win, help other people. So that's another reason why I do all that. And yeah, it's very rewarding for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of your videos. I mean, they're fantastic. What you've put it out, like you've essentially thrown out all of your blueprints on YouTube and everything. I mean, whatever you're doing, and people still don't get it. This is the actual blueprint that help you to build an agency, to get into the SEO world or whatever that helps them. Uh, Talk to me about a decision making process in that whole whatever you have built so far. Uh, the moment you felt like, aha, like I knew I was right and my belief was right in that moment, how I could see that, because not a lot of people could see things. You can only connect dots in hindsight. In the early days, you just have to have that belief that this is going to work and I'm going to go all in. I'm going to rally a team behind me and I'm going to tell them that this is what we're going to do. And I have this feeling that this is going to work. So what was that thought process like in the initial days?
Yes, I mean it's very tough, right? Like to your point of like the black hole, that's kind of what it is, right? Like there's almost like no assurance in front of you that things are going to work, other than the assurance inside of you, like in your mindset, right? So I think at the end of the day, it's something that first of all, I think skills are the number one thing, like, and that's why communication skills are so important, because if you're able to convince customers you can always learn other skills, right? Like, you could always hire a developer, you could always hire an operations person, you could always hire an HR person, you can always hire, any other person, designers, copywriters, right? Like, it's quite endless what type of skills you can hire out for. Um, and you can hire them onshore, you can hire them offshore. Like, it's quite literally endless in terms of what skills you can find. So I think the number one skill when starting out, at least from what I've seen to make it easier, is your ability to sell, right? Like, if you're able to sell and you're able to acquire revenue, then you can use that revenue to then go ahead and support, whatever costs in terms of service operations and, things like that you need to hire out for. You're able to, find those talent easier and, sell people as to why they should be a part of the vision, and it's much easier to do. So I think like, if you don't have the mindset and the ability to communicate, like, I recommend all the people that are in my coaching program, I tell them, like, look, if you can join some kind of public speaking class, if you can join some kind of like Toastmasters, if you can like sort of like advance your skills when it comes to like communication, your entrepreneurial career will be a lot more successful, because you know how to actually sell, you know how to actually communicate with people, in every facet, right? So yeah, I think the like, if you have the mindset and the communication skill, you're going to definitely be able to push past this black hole period. And you're going to be able to, like you said, look in hindsight and, be able to connect all the dots that way. There's certain things that work and there's certain things that don't work, right? So trial and error is important, and you have to be confident in making mistakes, because I made so many mistakes throughout my journey, right? Like, it's not something that you're going to be able to just do, like, get it right the first time. A lot of people think that they have a lot of self-confidence, they think they're going to get things right, the first time, and then right when they don't get it right, they're like, oh snap, maybe this isn't for me, but that's not how it works, because some of the greatest entrepreneurs in the world, like, they have to learn through mistakes. Like, even Elon Musk, right? Like, he started 4 companies before he started PayPal. A lot of people don't even know those companies, what they are, and his first real hit was PayPal. So to have to start 4 companies, fail at those companies, not pursue them in the long haul, and then start, something bigger, it takes a lot of grit, a lot of, conviction, self-confidence. Like, most people would have quit, after the first one. They said, oh, okay, like, I didn't do a good job, or it didn't work out, so I'm just going to quit, right? So if you're able to push past that, and just, no matter what, whether it's this business, the next business, it doesn't really matter. Like, but the concept is this, is like, I'm going to work for myself and I'm going to make sure I'm successful, like, no matter what it is. I think that's key. And then the other thing too is, if your goal is just to make money, um, there's a lot of easier ways to make money. Like, entrepreneurship is not easy. It's very difficult, right? So it's like, you could choose the low-hanging fruit, go get a job, make 80K to 120K a year, getting a high-paying job, whatever it is. And that's easier money. All you have to do is get one yes in the interview, right? You get an interview, you get one yes, boom, now you're hired and you just do your job, right? Whereas entrepreneurship's like, you have to get yeses all the time. Like, it's not just a one-time thing. You have to constantly grind. You have to constantly do well, for your clients, for your team. You have to constantly, get those yeses over and over again. So it's definitely a harder way to make money. However, if you work hard and you're in a position where that failure is actually a good thing, and you don't quit, then you're going to be in a position to do well in the long run, right? A lot of people are so focused on the short term that they don't look at the bigger picture. And so, this is the time, from the age of 17 all the way to the age of 30. It's the most important time to make mistakes, because when you're 30, 40, 50, like, you've learned from all that, you can become a much bigger and greater entrepreneur as a result.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, everything you said about entrepreneurship makes sense. You covered mindset like in 20 minutes. I'll get to strategies now. You've built variance marketing based on the initial days, like you said, you're working on the SEO side. Talk to me about when a new client comes to you and they say that they want to rank the website, on the first or second page of Google, how do you go about in that process? What's the typical project involved looking like?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's usually the same for each client. I mean, every SEO campaign is different, like what you have to do, but in terms of the process, it's always the same. So, I mean, whenever a client comes to us wanting to do SEO, the first thing that we have to do is do an analysis. And so the analysis we do is actually a couple things we look at. So first thing is we look at their website, right? So is their website, good enough to go up against the competition, right? Because there's certain keywords that people want to rank for, right? So like, for example, if you search up cannabis franchise Canada, our company, Modern Day Cannabis, is number one in Google. And that brought us like over 200 leads, of people that want to open cannabis stores, right? So, and so we have to do a couple things, right? We have to figure out, okay, which keywords do we want to rank for? So we have to do a keyword research analysis and say, okay, which keywords have the lowest competition, have the highest search volume per month, and have the highest sales intent. What I mean by sales intent is, if someone types in how to run Facebook ads, their intent is not to buy anything. It's just to learn how to run Facebook ads. But if someone types in Facebook advertising services, that is not someone looking to learn anything. That is someone that is just looking to take out their credit card and buy something, right? So sales intent, right?
Yeah.
So you have to rate your keywords based on, competitor level, if it's low competition, if it's high search volume, and if it's high sales intent, right? And that's the first thing you look for. And then based on the keyword targets that you're looking to rank for, you have to decide, okay, is my website good enough, right, to go up against the competition? Like, what's missing from my website? Is it technical issues that are missing, load speed, things like that, schema markups? Or is it, for example, that I don't have, I don't have the right on-page optimization, like the content on my website's not good enough? Or is it the backlinks, right? Like, because whenever you look at a keyword, you'll be able to see, okay, what are the competitors who rank for that keyword? What is their backlink profile look like? Like, how many links do they have? What is the quality of those links? What's their content looking like on their website? What's the load speed, technical optimization? Do they have any errors on their website? So you have to use tools online to sort of figure out, okay, what is the sort of overall scope of the SEO campaign, right? Mm-hmm. And the overall scope is, first of all, figuring out my targets, and then based on my targets, based on the keywords I'm looking to rank for, who's there now and what is the scope of work required for my website to outrank those websites, right? And so usually we'll price the packages according to what that scope of work looks like, as well as the difficulty in terms of outranking those people. So that's the process. And then once we define that and we lock in the project, then we are doing more so every month. We're doing technical optimization. We're doing on-page optimization. We're developing content, so putting out new pages, new target pages, new blogs, and then more important than ever, we're doing a bunch of backlinks. So backlinks are, I would say, the most important thing with any SEO campaign. It's basically just links online of other websites that are talking about your website and linking back to your website. So it could be an example could be like a Reddit post. Someone's taught. Let's just say it's a hair loss client. Their product is all about hair loss, right? So they sell minoxidil, let's just say a few other things, right? So the Reddit post should talk about, like, let's just say someone's posting on a forum talking about hair loss. It's a hair loss subreddit, right? And they're saying, hey, like, I use this product, it did this, this, and this for me. It uses this technology, blah, 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 this sort of science, whatever. Here is exactly the link where you can find them, right? And then they post that on the subreddit. And then now that's a backlink, right? Because it has a piece of content talking about what the website's about. Yeah. And then it also has the link referring back to that domain. So it's and you want as many of those as possible. So Reddit and Quora, these are, Web 2.0s. These are forums, right? But there's more than just forums. There's sponsored posts, image links, hero posts, guest posts. There's an endless amount, like business listing links, right? So like getting in Yelp, 411, these types of places. So we like to get hundreds of links for our clients on a monthly basis, all high quality. It's not about volume. Like Google prefers like quality, right? So if you're featured in Forbes and there's a backlink from Forbes to your website, that's going to be a way higher quality backlink than, let's just say, you're on some random blog. that no one really knows about, that has sort of a spammier sort of, outlook
Yeah.
on their website. So I mean, more so every month we do about 12 months worth of content, technical, and backlinks until we sort of not only meet the competitors' profiles and meet their backlink profiles and all that, but we actually surpass them, right? So we surpass them by having greater, SEO activity than they do. And then Google just, over time, the algorithm every month will sort of decide who gets precedent, who goes first, who goes second, who goes third. There's a bunch of other algorithms at play, like, for example, time on page, right? So like if someone's spending 6 minutes on this page, but then 2 minutes on your competitor page, then Google's going to say, okay, clearly this search result is a more, better search result for this keyword because more people are reading, more people are spending time engaging with it, right? So there's a few other things other than that. I'm not going to go through everything, but yeah, at the end of the day, like there is a whole scope planned prior to even commencing the project.
Right. When you talk about all these links coming back to your website, it sort of builds an authority for your website. And you mentioned that Reddit posting somebody posting about your product or service on Reddit and then it linking back to your website builds that authority. What are the forums you could say where people are talking about products and services would help them rank their website better? Reddit is one. You talked about a few more. Yelp. Uh, any other websites that you could share?
Yeah, there's tons, right? Like it really just depends on the niche. Like it's better to have, instead of generic ones, it's better to have like niche based ones, right? So like if you're let's just say you're a medical client, and you have like a medical offering, then there's a website called like WebMD, right? And that's a better sort of link to be in because it's a medical website, right? And so, it really just depends on the business. But, if you can't find niche based forums, then yeah, you have to stick to all the ones available. Like pretty much everything is a forum, like even Tumblr, that's also a forum, like Instagram, all these things are forums, so, I would say like at the end of the day, like we have a database of like thousands of links. So we just go through all of them, Yelp is another one. Anywhere where people can have discussion and talk about a particular thing,
Is there a universal website or an SEO practice that applies to all the niches, or is it just it depends on different like businesses that they want to target?
Yeah, I would say it's different for each business. That's the hard part about SEO, right? Which is that it's never a one size fits all. Like you can do a bunch of foundational links first. Like you can do like 100 to 200 generic, foundational links that aren't niche based. But you get to a point where, you've acquired all those links, right? And now the website has those links, but what's going to really set your website apart in the eyes of Google is that you have relevance, right? So like a lot of niche based links that have to do with your category of your website. And that will help you surpass, a lot more competitors, because a lot of the competitors will not have those links, right? So if you're able to acquire them, and there's kind of two ways to acquire links, right? Like the first way is you just buy them. So like, you can just purchase backlinks. So like this called sponsored links, right? And the second way you can get them is actually through outreach. So you could reach out to the webmasters, you could reach out to the owners of companies, you could reach out to the people that are in charge of the websites, and you could ask them to write a really good piece of content, that will help their website, make their website awesome, but also links back to your product, or your website, or your service page, whatever. They have, for them, it's a couple clicks to just copy and paste what you wrote and then, post it on their blog, right? So I mean, there's that. And then there's also like HARO links. HARO links stand for help a reporter out, right? And so you can even Google like, HARO links. You can search up HARO backlinks online and find a bunch of websites that allow you to pitch your story, pitch your article, pitch your blog post to reporters, right? People who are, featuring their articles in, all these different content websites online, like news articles, things like that. And they look at your, article as inspiration, and then they can go ahead and post it, online, and that would be a free
Right.
way of going about it because you're writing the article for the reporter, so they
Yeah.
they can do it as well. And there's also
That
link
that.
roundups, right? So that's another strategy where you just Google link roundups, and then there's all kinds of groups you can get into online where you can post link roundups all the time. So it's really technical. It can get very
Yeah. Yeah.
technical
Yeah.
over time,
It,
but
it, it's a little overwhelming for somebody who doesn't understand all these jargons. Avi, talk to me about somebody who has no idea about marketing and wants to get into the field, but there's too many fields like SEO, content, there's ads, and all sorts of services. What advice would you give to them who wants to tap into this field? Like, where should they start at?
I would say two things, right? First thing is don't go for everything because you're going to overwhelm yourself. So I think pick one thing, pick actually the easier one, right? Like for me, I picked SEO when I first started, and that's because I read like a 400-page book called Search Engine Marketing by the IBM Press. It's a very technical book. So I read about it, I learned about it, and I knew the reason I wanted SEO is because I knew that it takes time to get the results. We got good results for our valet business when ranking in Google. Like we ranked number one valet parking services Toronto. So and I realized first of all it takes time, so you can get paid longer as a marketer. Naturally, everyone knows SEO takes time, so it's not like they're expecting results overnight. Uh, but there's a lot of easier ways to start. Like you can start in advertising, you can start in press, you can start in website design. There's a lot of places you could start. One piece of advice I would say is start with one service. Get really good at it, and then expand it to other service lines, right? So the other thing I would say is like marketing is really simple, and if you look at it in one way, this is the way I like to look at marketing, which is that more outflows equals more inflows, right? And that's all it is, right? So the more your outflow is defined as your offer, whatever your offer is. You could be hairstylist, dentist, accountant, right? Marketer, right? Whatever your offer is, you got to pump it out into the world, right? And new eyeballs have to see your offer, right? So you could do that via advertising, you do that via cold calling, you could do that via SEO, you could do that via door knocking, you could do that via flyer distribution, you could do that with all kinds of ways, to get your offer out there, right? But you have to ask yourself every day, how many people are being made aware of my offer, of my service? And if the answer is like, okay, only 5 people a day are learning about my service and what I have to offer, right? Then you're going to get a result that aligns with 5 people a day seeing your stuff. You might get 1 or 2 clients a month with that kind of activity, right?
Yeah.
But if 100 people a day are seeing what you have to offer, right? Then now you can get 1 to 2 clients, a day typically, right? If 1,000 people are seeing your offer every single day, then that number jumps and jumps. So I think it's a volume game, and as long as you can understand that as a marketer, then you can either help yourself with your businesses, or you can help your clients, drive more outflows, pumping out those offers more. And then when more people see it, you get more inflows, you get more opportunities, sales appointments, clients, paying customers, retained clients, right? So, that's what it comes down to. So the real goal is this: how can I get the highest quality eyeballs to see my offer at the lowest possible cost to me, right? And that could be advertising for some businesses, that could be SEO for some businesses, that could be not even digital marketing. Sometimes it's better to even go door knocking or physical marketing, radio ads, right? There's a lot of ways to go about marketing. Sponsoring events might be the smartest move if it's a more B2B style technical product that has a high purchase price, right? So there's different ways to market different businesses, but you have to ask yourself, first of all, how do I get in front of my ideal client? I don't want just any eyeball seeing it. I want the right eyeball seeing it. And then how do I increase the volume of how many people are seeing my offer? And if you can do that, then you'll be in a position to get a lot more clients just through your marketing.
Yeah. And when you say more outflows, like in the initial days, you have to hustle, you have to call a lot of people, you have to cold calling. And I read an article on Forbes website, you said you called 300, 400 people in a single day. Talk to me like somebody who is just starting out. How could they? What would their sales pitch be like when they call up somebody? Because they're not used to getting no's. And when you make 300, 400 calls and you get like 100, 200 no's, you get disheartened. You don't have that energy to even make another call the next day. How could somebody refine their pitch so that they get at least 1 yes out of 200, 300?
Yeah, exactly. I think so. If you can benchmark yourself, like this is how I see it. Every 100 calls that you make, you should have a minimum of, and that's the lowest. This is the absolute lowest you should have is 5 yeses, 5 appointments booked, right, off of your cold calls, for every 100 calls. Like that's the minimum. Like people on our team they get 20 yeses, 25 yeses off of 100 dials, right? But the lowest is 5, and if you can't hit 5 for every 100 calls, then the problem might not even be you, right? The problem could be your pitch, and the problem could be a couple things. So it could be your list, right? The list you're hitting. If you're hitting a bunch of receptionists, right, who are not decision makers, who like don't care about what you have to offer, right, then that is a problem. You could, call 1,000 people, but if it's all receptionists that don't want to pass your message or don't care, aren't the ones that are buying the service in the end, so they don't really give you time or even think about it. They're just doing their job, right, which is to filter out calls like that, right? So, so you have to ask yourself, first of all, what about my list? So one problem could be is the list, right? The second thing could be the problem is your pitch, right? So your pitch should be niche. It should never be generic, right? So you should be using a pitch that aligns with your target audience. Like when my team calls, and when I was calling when I first started, I didn't call every kind of company, I would call one niche at a time. So if I'm choosing event planners today, or if I'm choosing, mortgage agents today, if I'm choosing realtors today, the pitch I'm using and the script I'm using, it aligns with that audience. So when I talk to them, I'm speaking their lingo, right? It's not enough to say, hey, I'll get you a bunch of clients, right? That's very generic, right? But if you're talking to a dentist, it's like, look, I'll get you a bunch of patients. You see what I mean? So the lingo change is there. And you could also say, instead of I'll get you clients, you'll say, if I'm talking to a mortgage agent, I'm not going to say I'll get you a bunch of clients. I'll say I'll get you a bunch of refinances, consolidations. I'll get you a lot of renewals. I'll get you a lot of HELOCs. I'll get you a lot of reverse mortgages, right? So this is their lingo. You understand?
Yeah.
And you need to speak their language when calling them, because it's just they're gonna feel like, first of all, their business, right? You actually are doing what you say you're doing, because you're not just a generic caller saying I'll get you a bunch of clients that you can call anyone and say that. It's very specific to the list, the pitch, right? And yeah, you also have to have high energy. So that's the one thing I'll tell you is drink a Red Bull, drink a coffee, whatever you need to do to sound enthusiastic when calling, because if you're calling and you sound like this when you're calling, it doesn't really excite you. So yeah, I would say a couple of things on cold calling is your list is important. So it needs to all be the same niche. It needs to be as many decision makers as possible on the list. Second thing is your offer should be super niche down. And should be the lingo, like the language in the offer, should be very, very synchronized with the niche, right?
Yeah.
And then it's volume, right? So just do as much volume as possible. If you're seeing that you're not booking at least 5 appointments off of 100 dials, something's wrong. Something is wrong. You need to isolate and figure out what is wrong. Is it my list? Is it my pitch? What is it? Is it my lingo? Like you have to figure out exactly what it is, right?
Or it could even be the market. The market's not doing good because of the recession. And then they get caught that something's wrong, and then they don't give it a try.
Exactly. That could be it too. Like, right. So, in COVID, that changed the restaurant business a lot, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people couldn't eat at restaurants. So if you're cold calling restaurants during that period, they're likely going to tell you, hey man, I'm already bleeding. Like I'm paying rent still. I'm locked into my lease. I can't even open my, thing. So, right. But then there's ways to sort of navigate through those markets as well, right? Like if you switched your pitch and told restaurants, hey, my strategy is not to get you more walk-ins, but my strategy is to get you catering services developed where you actually create food and bring the food to them, and then also get you on all these delivery platforms like Uber Eats, Skip the Dishes, DoorDash, and help you sell more, stuff outwards as opposed to inwards, right? There's ways to navigate anything.
It's just thinking from a different angle.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Avi, like since in this era, there's a lot of content on all the social platforms, internet, and everything. A lot of people are selling all these services, but somebody who wants to target B2B, since you're in the marketing business, you target B2B businesses. So you should be putting out something on any of these platforms to sell, talk about your services, not sell about your services, to tell that you are doing this so and so. What platforms, B2B specifically, would you focus on?
For B2B, I would focus on three platforms more than any of them. I mean, you can do B2B on any platform. That's what I've come to
Mm-hmm.
realize, and I've seen success on any platform. But the three best ones for B2B in this order are Google, number one.
Mm-hmm.
I would say LinkedIn, number two, because you can reach decision makers, direct
Yeah,
message
yeah, yeah,
CEOs,
yeah.
run ads, sponsored messages, targeting the right people. It's the only one where you can target by job title. You can target by employee count, things like that.
Exactly.
Um, and the last one's YouTube, right? Because if you actually think about a B2B organization, right? Let's just say you're trying to target a big company, right? That has
Mm-hmm.
150 employees, big company, right? Um, there's a lot of approvals usually in big companies. Like you can't just talk to one guy. Like you can go to events, meet the right people, network with
Mm-hmm.
the right people, and then they are the decision maker hopefully, and then they can just decide to move forward with you. So events are
Yeah,
big. But
yeah.
platform wise, like we're talking online platforms, you'd be surprised. Just because it's a big company doesn't mean they're not humans, right? So human beings, when they don't know something, they Google
Mm-hmm.
it to figure out the results, figure out how it works. A lot of research gets done, right? So
Yeah.
if you're able to rank your website in Google for potential search queries or potential things that these human beings at these companies would be searching,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
then you can actually appear in front of them a lot more. The other thing is, in terms of an outbound strategy, LinkedIn is huge for that, right? A lot of people on LinkedIn are there to do business, are there to expand their networks, are there to, ingest business content, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, when you hit the right people with the right offer, with the right message, how you can help them, right? You're able to actually get in front of a lot of people that are within your target, that are the decision makers. So that's more of like an outbound strategy. And then as well, man, like, YouTube's the same thing as Google, right? Like people will, at these companies, these human beings that have issues or questions about how to solve a certain thing, they will,
Mm-hmm.
either Google it or, search it on YouTube to figure
Search.
out, okay, what is the solution here, right?
Yeah.
So I would say those are the best content platforms, to deploy
Mm-hmm.
to actually get business clients. But I will always say this in terms of B2B sales, your best real channels, the best channels are always going to be cold calling and always going to be events, going to
Mm-hmm.
events and meeting people at
Yeah.
events. Cold calling, I would say, is number one. So it's not necessarily a platform, but if you can, niche down your offer, with the right list, you subscribe to these, online tools like Zoom Info, PitchBook, where you can get real cell phone numbers and, people at these companies, decision makers, then you can call them, and like, just bombard them with your B2B offer.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of success with cold calling for sure, and that's why I like cold calling is because that's in your control, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
control how your pitch sounds. You can control your list. You can control how many dials you make per day, right? Whereas LinkedIn, Google and YouTube, you can control a lot of things like your content quality and things like that, but you can't control if someone's going to click onto your video,
Mm-hmm.
or you can't control if someone's going to, watch your content and then want to work with you after, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
with cold calling, I find that it's a lot more control, which is what I like. I always like having control because you can see what works, isolate things and scale it from there.
Mm-hmm. Follow-up question on that, Avi. You said brands, they're humans. They're decision makers. These big companies who are run by people, they go to YouTube, they go to Google to search about something that they don't know about. Uh, Tell me what would your proposal be like once you have like hit an initial connection, you've built a rapport. How do you propose your services?
For Google-based people.
Yeah, I mean these big corporations. I mean brands or whoever you're targeting.
Pitch, right? Okay, so yeah, makes sense. So I mean, once they agree to an appointment, then what we want to do is we want to put together, like if it's a big brand, you can't just show them some generic stuff. some package based. Oh, I have the diamond package, silver package, gold package. They don't want to see that, these big companies.
Yeah.
They want to see something custom. They want to see something well thought out. They want to see something that's research backed. They want to see something that is custom to their business, based on your advanced analysis of their situation. So I would put together a custom proposal, really, really custom as humanly possible, and just make sure the decision makers are on the call as well. So if you get the first appointment with someone that isn't the decision maker, you might want to network with that person, speak to him, make sure he has buy-in with you, and then work your way up within the company to then have, his boss come on the call, on the next call, and then you pitch them, right? But the idea is, you need something super custom. So I'd work together and create, a custom proposal. I have a lot of examples on my YouTube of different custom proposals and how to, kill for whales, how to hunt for whales, and, things like that. So, but yeah, it needs to be something very well thought out. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, we pitched a lot of big companies. Like, we've worked with like Ellis Dawn, Cineplex, the Kids Foundation, Aroma Espresso Bar, corporate. Like, we've done a lot of these big pitches. One of the ones that's very easy to understand that won't require like people watching this podcast. I could show you guys like advanced proposals with technical jargon and all this stuff, but that's usually private information, and I usually don't want to share, with the world. One thing I'd be comfortable sharing is there's a company called Time Play. I'm not sure if you guys ever heard of Time Play. When you go to Cineplex, you sit down in the theater. They don't really have it anymore, but they used to be where, you would sit down in the theater before your movie starts. There's like this game that plays on the screen.
Yeah.
It's called Time Play, and everyone competes on their smartphone. Trivia games, all these kind of games. Who can answer the question faster. And then there's a leaderboard at the end after the round's done. It ranks who in the game was the number one in the theater, right? So very interactive way of involving people, during the movie or right before the movie. So I used to love Time Play growing up, right? So I mean, one thing that I did to pitch Time Play. I noticed that if you go on their Instagram, if you just go on Time Play, search on Instagram, they have a terrible Instagram, absolutely atrocious. Like, content is horrible, like literally horrible. And this is not to like talk down or bad about them. This is literally because you will see for yourself, like, the content is horrendous, right? So I noticed that. And when I noticed that, I was like, okay, this is an opportunity, right? This is an opportunity, So what we did is we spent about 16 hours, me and my designer. We spent 16 hours putting together a brand new Instagram account, and we called it timeplay.variance. I believe it's still up if you search it, timeplay.variance.
Okay.
And it was a couple of years ago that we did this, right? And we put together a brand new Instagram page with a fresh amount of content, 16 hours worth of content that we developed, right? And each piece of content we uploaded, each post had a before and after. So all we did was their posts that they had on their original page. We posted it in a carousel, right? Where we said, okay, here's what you you see what's before. Sorry, you see what's after, and then you swipe right to see what's before. So we basically just redesigned all their posts and made a pitch, right? The first post says, hi, this is Avi and Alex, my designer. This account is not the official account of Time Play. We are just here to show the Time Play team what we can do, for their account. And so it's still up if you check it out. Like, and basically, like, it took us tons of time to create that, right? We were willing to do that. We were willing to put in that work. To acquire a bigger client. And that's what I mean by you need to be able to do, extra work, custom analysis, right, for these big enterprise companies. And so then we took the Instagram account, we took the link, and we just sent it via LinkedIn to the CEO, to the founder, to the head of operations, head of marketing, head of content. Like, we literally just blasted it to as many Time Play employees as possible to show them what we created. We actually booked a meeting with the CEO, and I actually know the CEO personally now. So I know he's like a good friend of mine now that I see all the time at like community events and things like that. So yeah, I mean, if you're willing, like with big companies, it's with small to medium-sized businesses, you want to do a blanket approach. So you want to just pump out your offer, see who bites, and then work with who bites, right? But with whales, you need to grab the harpoon and target the whale. It
Yeah.
needs to be like a targeted approach. It needs to be like something that's more sort of custom to that business. And
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
can
yeah.
do that and spend the time, then yeah, you should be able to get a lot of these big clients.
And was that the most fun project you've handled so far, or was it just one of them?
It was one of them. I mean, we've had a lot of fun projects, to be honest. Some of the more fun projects that we've done, like have been like in the music space. Like we worked with like some rappers like Lil Yachty, Blueface, Comethazine. We've done some, DJs as well. So that was fun because we got to like, fill the room with, ticket sales, online ticket sales. We did Snapchat geo filters. We did like a 25 show tour across the U.S. for some of these rappers, and each venue had 6,000 people, like to sell 6,000 tickets. So each we sold out like 6,000 tickets here in this city, 6,000 tickets in the next city, in the next city, in the next city, in the next city, right? So that was really really fun. That was a really fun project. But yeah, there's all kinds of projects, man. I would say like, Time Play is definitely like, a great project. I wouldn't say it's the most fun, but it was actually gruesome. It took 16 hours, right, to put that together. A lot of these big deals, they take time, so it's funny because one of the deals that I did that was bigger, I actually wrote like a mini book.
Mm-hmm.
It was like an 80-page like analysis of the market and their brand and all this stuff. It's pretty much like a book. Like it was like a thick,
Mm-hmm.
analysis with screenshots, statistics, all this stuff. I wrote every word in there.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you have to really work, man. You have to really work. And so that was my model before,
Mm-hmm.
getting these enterprise companies and, doing all the work like that myself, pitching a lot in advance. But now I have a sales team, I have a marketing team, I have a service team, so now, we have more of a blanket approach strategy with our clients. And then, we rank number one in Google, right? If you type Toronto SEO services, we get a lot of clients from that. We have, cold callers that are calling every day, thousands of cold
Mm-hmm.
calls a day. So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, we're doing a lot of volume and activity now. But yeah, like,
Okay.
I mean, it's super fun, so you got to do what works for you.
Yep. 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 That's, I mean, I touched upon a lot of strategies. Avi, before I wrap up this podcast, I want to ask you a few personal questions. Uh, how much of your why in your business journey was important for you to get where you are right now?
Yeah. I think the vibe is what sets you unique, right? Like that's your vibe is really like something that is a unique thing to you, right? Everyone has their own vibe. Everyone has their own like way of dealing with people. It's kind of like your personality, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would say, people love working with people, right? Like at the end of the day, right? No one wants to work with someone who's too corporate, too robotic,
Yeah.
right? I think if you maintain a really corporate atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
but you have a solid vibe, solid
Mm-hmm.
personality, unique, right, in your own way, that's the
Mm-hmm.
exact person that someone wants to work with. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I ask
Yeah.
myself, who would I want to
Yeah.
work with? I wouldn't want to work with some, Joe Schmo guy who, doesn't take corporate vibes seriously. Like he needs to be
Yeah.
a corporate guy, a professional guy, right?
Yeah.
Or girl, right? Uh, but what really sets it apart is like, everyone's a corporate and professional person, right? So you want to work with a professional corporate guy that
Mm.
is unique, that is easy to get along with, that you can build a relationship with, friendship, these types of things,
Yeah.
right? So I would say, if you can just, be yourself, man, there's no right answer to that. It's really just do, be yourself. Don't try to pretend you're someone else. Like I'll never pretend like I'm someone else. Like I'm always free to what who I am, and I'll always be honest with myself and with people and like who I am. And then there's a level of professionalism that you'll need as well. So as long as you meet the bar for professionalism, then everything above that is really just your vibe, right? So I completely agree with that. I completely agree how it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
important. I would say probably like 40 to 50%, would be like the vibe for sure in the early days for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And second question is, had you not taken that initial risk of starting a business, would you still be running a marketing business or any sorts of business right now? Because initial days you know that you have that in you to run a business, and if you don't take that risk, you wouldn't know. Looking back, had you just continued your investment banking hedge fund job, would you still be here where you are right now? Would you have taken a different journey and built a business in the finance world?
I don't think so, to be honest. I don't think so. I think it's a hard question. Like at the end of the day, I mean, it's hard to have a crystal ball and know like what it would have been like. But I can tell you right now, like if I was an investment banker, or working at the hedge fund, like I probably would have remained in that field, either worked my way up or joined a boutique company where I became a partner and things like that. So it's hard to say, but I always wanted to be since a young age, I was always wanted to be entrepreneurial. The biggest reason why I went into entrepreneurship was because I hated like 2 week vacations. I hated the idea of someone controlling my like schedule. I was like, who are you to tell me that I can't go here or can't do this or like I understand you want me to add value to your company. I agree, but freedom of schedule was the real reason, was one of the main reasons that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I think that's an also important thing to highlight too, which is like a lot of people just want millions of dollars and they like, okay, the only way for me to get millions and billions is for me to become an entrepreneur. But really, like, think about it more simply. Like, even if you're making 20 grand to 50 grand a month, right? You're not like a multi-million-dollar company, but you control your life. Like, you want to go on vacation, you can go on vacation. You want to stay home today, you can stay home today, right? You can work from home, work from the office. Like, you control your time and your schedule, and I think that's one of the most important factors in the human experience, right? Like
Yes.
like it's important to not be just another person that you're just kind of following orders and things like that. I think it's really important to be in control of your life, and so I think the human experience requires that. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said it, everything. The only reason you should start a business is you want to have the freedom, and you also have to love your whatever business that you're doing. I mean, you had everything and you had things in the right place. You made the right decisions and it worked out. Last few words, Avi, you want to add something to your audience? Just let them know where they can follow you and some advice for somebody who is looking up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, thank you so much for the podcast. I appreciate that. It was a fun conversation. If you want to find me, just follow me on Instagram. You can also subscribe to my YouTube. Those are the places that I check the most. And yeah, and like, at the end of the day, guys, just work super hard, like don't let anyone tell you can't do anything. Sometimes there's voices from your parents, from your colleagues, from your girlfriend, from all these people. This is all like speculation. Unless someone's done something before that you're trying to do, like never take fitness advice from a fat person, right? Never take cooking advice from a person who sucks at cooking, right? Never like all these people, they want to inject their opinions. Oh, they always want to inject their opinions, every single day into your life, into what you're doing. And I'll tell you straight up, like, unless someone's done something, where what you're trying to do, like, then I would listen to what they're doing, right? But just stay in your own lane, work really hard, have the conviction and know that if you just put in the hours, put in the time, it's going to be successful. If you guys need more strategic help, I do offer a coaching program. It's a 12-month opportunity where we work together, one-on-one. We scale up your business. I've taken companies from like 10K a month upwards of like 250K a month, so it's really, something that I like to offer as my give back. I talk about it in all my speeches as well. So
I'll add the
if
link
you want to
of
join that, like, let me know. You can reach out online and I can help you out, no problem, and go from there.
That's super awesome. I'll include all the links that you said, your website links, your personal brand link. If anybody wants to hit me up, ask questions about marketing or related to that, please do that. Avi is already has shared what he has helping in. I hope you guys found some value in this. I hope Avi could do his part in helping you. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Avi, you've been a great sport. Thank you for your time. I'm in Toronto. If you're free, let me know. I'd love to have a chat and meet you.
Absolutely, man. I'd love some food or coffee or whatever, man. Sounds good, Aakash. I appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for this, eh?
Thank you so much for your time, Avi. Have a great day.